I kind of feel like everything's crooked and like I'm worried that the camera just like isn't really straight, but that's okay, neither am I. Hi, I go by Maisie and I make videos about my art and my life. Lately on my social media channels, I've been kind of chatty about how I am starting as a tattoo resident at a studio. And with that, I've gotten quite a few questions from my followers, from my peers, about how I accomplish this. And I wanted to make a little video about my journey as a tattoo artist and how I accomplished this. You might have seen my hand poke videos from many years ago. I don't know if those are still up on my channel, but I've been kind of documenting that journey for a long time. So this is just like a concise summation of everything. So ever since I was a kid, I've always loved tattoos. My dad has a really cool tattoo. It's like a band around his right bicep, and I always found them to be very cool, and I always knew that I wanted tattoos. Like as a child, I always pictured myself as an adult with tattoos, and I always had the kind of like good kid persona. Like I was the overachiever, the straight A student, like a pleasure to have in class. And so that always surprised people when I would talk about like how many tattoos I wanted, but I always knew that I wanted to at least be a part of the culture and having tattoos. When I was in high school, I started developing a desire to learn how to tattoo when I started drawing. I learned to draw when I was around 18, and around that time I also started wanting to learn how to tattoo. However, I did not start actually tattooing until New Year's Eve of 2017. I was going into the year 2018. I ended up ordering some supplies on Amazon and just hand poking myself, and I think I vlogged like the whole experience. I don't know if the video is still up, but I ended up tattooing myself, and I still have that tattoo, and it's very bad, but it's like one of my favorite tattoos because it's very sentimental to me. Now throughout 2018 and 2019, as I was in college, a lot of my peers found out that I was hand poking and they wanted tattoos. They would see the tattoos that I gave other people, and it kind of built up a little community of people who wanted to be tattooed by me. I pretty much exclusively tattooed my close friends, my acquaintances, and my friends of friends. A lot of times I would tattoo like a friend or a classmate, and then their friends would see it and want a tattoo, and etc., so on. Before I say anything further, I want to emphasize that this is like a not traditional path to becoming a tattoo artist. And I'm not necessarily recommending this kind of path, but this is the path that I took and happened to stumble upon. When the lockdown happened in 2020, I was not tattooing people, obviously, because I was isolating, but I did learn to machine tattoo during this time, and to this day I really dislike machine tattooing. I'm still a hand poke artist. I can do it, it looks fine, I don't enjoy it. Kind of like the slow, tedious process of a hand poke tattoo. After the lockdown in like 2022, I was working quite a bit, and I didn't really have as much time or energy to tattoo people, so I would kind of do it here and there, but I wasn't doing it as nearly as often as I was in college. In the fall of 2022, I started dating someone who was also really into tattoos, and she really pushed me and encouraged me to continue to learn. So around this time, I got my bloodborne pathogens certification. Now, I want to take a moment and pause. You should be getting bloodborne pathogen education and certification before anything. My girlfriend at the time also really encouraged me to guest places. And she had a friend who worked full-time at a street shop, so I guested there at the beginning of 2023, and it was really a scary experience because here I am, little tattooer, not a big following, just tattooing, you know, a few friends and a few strangers actually who came to get tattooed. But I was so nervous because it was my first time ever working in like a studio space. And prior to that, I had been working in private spaces, so having my work and my process just be out in the open was really scary to me. So I'm not dating her anymore, but I'm really grateful for my ex-girlfriend in that she really pushed me to follow my dreams with tattooing. In the fall of 2023, I decided to become licensed, so I became licensed as a body art practitioner, in Los Angeles County. After I became licensed as a body art practitioner, I started working in a private studio that my friend helped run. I love this friend to this day. I think she's amazing, and she's an amazing tattoo artist, and she and another person were running this little private studio downtown. And I started working there as a resident. This did not last long for a few reasons. I decided to stop working there due to personal kind of outside reasons. I just wasn't able to spend the amount of time that I wanted to spend at the studio. There was also some conflict between the owners that made me a little uncomfortable, and I didn't end up coming back to the studio after I broke my contract because the studio actually closed, unfortunately. After the studio closed, I ended up kind of working in private spaces mostly. I was also guesting places here and there, and I was also working the occasional tattoo event. I take forever to tattoo people because I'm a hand poke artist and because I like to take my time. And because of this, tattoo events and markets aren't necessarily the most lucrative for me, but I do find them to be a fun time. Finally, this summer, I applied to a residency at a public studio and I was accepted. So right now I'm working at a public tattoo studio in North Hollywood and I'm really enjoying it. And yeah, that's the brief history. Now, in the tattoo community, I have found myself in a more sort of girly pop artist space. And that's not an official name by any means, but I found myself in a sort of niche of artists who tend to be more femme presenting. We have a lot of queer artists, which is really wonderful. I find this space to have quite a few tattoo beginners in it, which is really exciting because I also find the space to be significantly more accessible in terms of learning and joining. For example, I have a friend who does tattoo classes in LA. She teaches how to machine tattoo, and I think that is so lovely. I find the styles to be more experimental, more fine line, less so a traditional style. However, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. And I also have found this community to be a lot less gatekeepy, if that makes sense, when it comes to joining the community, but also in terms of learning and sharing information and supporting each other. Like I said, I found a lot of newer artists in the community, and I find that folks tend to be more willing to give people a shot, which is really beautiful. A lot of artists in this community are self-taught, including myself, but there are apprenticeships, etc. available in this community. Now, if you yourself are interested in becoming an artist, here are my biggest tips. The first is to find out the rules and regulations of tattooing in your area. Different states and different counties within the states all have different regulations, and I don't even know about other countries other than the United States. I don't even know about states beyond California. So that's something to be aware of. My second biggest tip is to learn bloodborne pathogen safety and just tattoo safety in general before learning anything else. This goes way beyond using the proper supplies, especially when it comes to things like basic bloodborne pathogen safety. My third tip is probably my favorite because it can be done at literally any point in your life, and that is to practice your drawing skills. Drawing is really a backbone of tattooing. I want to be clear, the whole art of learning how to put ink into somebody's skin is its own thing. But if you want to tattoo, it's really, really good to have a good foundation in drawing. As you continue to practice and learn, your drawing will absolutely get better and you'll learn how to draw for tattoos specifically. But it's really good to have a basic foundation in things like form, light, shading, shapes, things like that. Next tip is a huge one, and that is to find community. When you are learning and also when you are practicing. If you live in a bigger city, you can look for tattoo events, kind of like the ones I was mentioning. If you get tattoos, you can chit chat with your artists, and if it comes up naturally, maybe ask them to connect you with people. It's also really important to educate yourself on tattoo styles and culture. First of all, I think it's just a respectful thing to do to learn about a community that you are attempting to join. But something that I also don't hear referenced as much when talking about learning about culture and respect is that you inherently kind of learn about like offensive tattoos and symbols and what they mean. What I'm trying to say is it's really important to learn about these things so you're not accidentally tattooing hate symbols on anybody. I also think when you're learning to tattoo, you need to prioritize diversity in the types of people you're tattooing. For example, certain parts of the body have thinner skin and tend to blow out more. Different people have different skin texture, and it's important to learn how to tattoo. It's important to know how different techniques you're using will look on different skin tones and how different ink colors will look on different skin tones. It's also very important to learn how to tattoo over things like scars. I firmly believe that diversity is extremely important when you're learning how to tattoo and when you're practicing tattooing. My last tip is to support other artists. I firmly believe that we really need to lift each other up as a community and as artists. Some ways that you can do this are to share the things that you learn, connect peers with each other. I know it can be humbling, but it's important to be able to ask people questions if you don't know the answer to something, or ask for advice from more experienced artists. I also believe that it's really important not to be afraid to help others out, especially once you become a more established artist. It's really important to not forget where you came from. Overall, I find peer support to be absolutely crucial to community. That was it for tips, and that was it for my video. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them in the comments. I'll have links to all my other social media pages and my tattoo Instagram below. I will also have my website linked and my Patreon. If you are not subscribed, I would love to have you here. I love making videos about the different kinds of art that I do, and also about things like my journey with mental health and my life in general. So I would love to see you here if you want to stick around and say hi. Anyways, I love you, and thank you for watching, and have a lovely day.